T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and lift off. Final lift off of the class. Shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue to
reflection, hope, fulfillment as a centuries-old dream starts toward reality.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control, T-minus 3 hours, 4 minutes, 32 seconds and counting. Right on time as far as the astronaut countdown is concerned. The prime crew now departing from their crew quarters here at the Kennedy Space Center. Astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and then finally Mike Collins, plus their suit technicians and Director of Flight Crew Operations Deke Slayton now boarding the transfer van for the trip to the launch pad. The trip in the transfer van should take some 15 minutes or so to reach the pad, at which time the astronauts will board the first of 2 elevators for the trip to the 320-foot level at the launch pad, where they will then proceed to ingress the spacecraft.
Nunca se ve bailando en la pista sola. Llega a montarla con sus amigas gastando el dólar. Me dice peso, ¿qué será lo que tiene esa morra? La conozco de antes, es una experta rompiendo el cora. Ella es peligrosa, una bomba nuclear. Ese está a punto de estallar. ¿Qué hay para dañar? Y si ella quiere le explota, plata, 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 plata. Le gusta cantar el coro, 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 coro. Un finicito yo lo enrolo, rolo, rolo, rolo. Baby, tú no comentes nada y yo ni te menciono. Baby, tú y yo sabemos que el amor expira. Por todas las discotecas vámonos de gira. Como un francotirador yo te tengo en la mira. Me dice te amo y yo sé que es mentira. Si tú eras Sony estaría suscrito. La nota
Silesia, 1912, nationality American. The group of 120 rocket scientists and engineers that von Braun brought with him in 1945, more than half are still here. They've become the folk who live on the hill, in a part of town known sometimes locally as Huntsville.
I think it's probably basically a romantic drive that motivated me. But with romanticism alone, you don't build these things. They're pretty demanding with respect to perfection. They're pretty unforgiving too. There's no such thing as a 99.9% success. That 0.1% can still lead to a complete failure. It was the 3rd of October 1942, and it was not the first attempt either. We had several preceding attempts. Some fizzled entirely and some others were partly successful. We had even one flight that went all the way through sound speed and then broke up at about Mach number 2 times sound speed. But this flight on the 3rd of October, was attempt number 4, was then the first full success. I remember that General Dornberger made a little speech that day, and that speech was maybe quite significant for the feeling we had. In this speech he said, this day will be remembered as the day when spaceflight was born. So there was even no reference at all about to any weapons development at the time. We all had the feeling that the barrier to outer space had been broken, rather than
You've worked for bosses as diverse as Adolf Hitler and John F. Kennedy. Does it matter for whom you make rockets?
Oh, I think it does. It does matter a great deal. Remember, I was a very young man in Germany, and I was so busy with my rockets that maybe in retrospect I sometimes wonder whether I shouldn't have worried a little more about some of these aspects. And as I grew older, of course, and saw the ramifications, of course, also the suffering that's involved, you rethink some of these things. On the other hand, I do not believe that I'm all alone in this respect, because I think, as I see, the early pioneers in aviation probably went through exactly the same thing. They wanted to fly, and they tried to find the money wherever they could get it to do these things. And
was there ever a moment when you thought that you wouldn't reach the moon?
Well, let's put it this way. When I was 17 and started all this, the moon looked a lot closer to me than it did for a long, long time in between. Today it looks again very close, but in the meantime, of course, we've learned a few things. Among others, I've learned, for example, what $1 billion is, something I had no conception for in the early days.
But to Helmut Gröttrup, viewing it all from Munich, 3,000 miles away, getting a man to the moon is a waste of both time and money. Does he think that his former colleagues and von Braun, the man who was once his boss, have been misled by the dreams they've lived with for the past 40 years?
Yeah, I think that the whole program, Man in Space, is false. They shouldn't do that. They should spend the money for other things. I would compare it with going to the Mount Everest, you see. You can't come to the Mount Everest by helicopter, but no one does it. They all wish to climb. That's fine, let them climb, and they use money with a small portion of the income of some rich people. But if you send a man to the moon, the first thing is that you have to use a big part of the welcome, is that right, of the income of the whole nation. And if it's so, you have to ask what to do with this money. That is not the money, that's the fruit of the work of all these men and women. You could reach the same goal to take, say, data, scientific data from the moon and from the space and so on. You could reach this same goal by sending automatics into the space with an amount of 10 or 20% of the money they spend now.
You mean that mankind will survive? Oh no, I think mankind is a pretty sturdy breed. I think I'm very optimistic that man will stay on top of things in spite of the problems that engineers, among other people, create.
You don't think that we're going to have to escape to Mars one day?
No, I'd rather look at it the other way. I think somehow space flight for the first time gives mankind a chance to become immortal. In other words, once this Earth will no longer be able to support life, we can immigrate and go to other places that are better suited for the support of life.
As the anxious moments ticked off, people throughout the Bay Area waited for the word. San Francisco went silent, as if more than 1 million people were suddenly taking a long, deep breath simultaneously. Then, the city was engulfed with the sound of people trying to tell the world that we've entered a new era of space exploration. At the San Francisco Presidio, the soldiers took their cue from a transistor radio to offer their pre-planned salute to the three modern-day explorers. It was a day that would be remembered for a lifetime.
Oh, it's great! It's wonderful. I can't believe they finally got down.
I love it. I thought the boy wouldn't make it, but they did. That was great. Great for them, really. That's something else. I mean, everybody's wondering, will they come back? Now they're back.
Really fantastic. I'm glad I got out here in time to see it all. It's really neat. Fantastic. The moon already. I can't believe it. The moon already. I can't believe it. The moon already. I can't believe it.
Back in my element. Back in my element. If they don't want let them in, I'm here like a veteran, but I ain't even hit my prime. Back in my element. Back in my element. If they don't want let them in, I'm here like a veteran, but I ain't even hit my prime.
Does he think that his former colleagues and von Braun, the man who was once his boss, have been misled by the dreams they've lived with for the past 40 years?
Yeah.